All right, welcome to Equal Time Soccer. We are here with pro baller Alaysia Lane, all the way from Portugal. Alaysia, you are living it up out on like a patio, a like backyard in beautiful Portugal, while we are freezing in Minnesota. So, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We have so much to get into, but first I just want to ask, we were talking just before we got recording that you've been in Portugal for like a month and a half now, but I'm super curious, how did that opportunity come together? How did you sort of first hear about it? And then, what were some of the thoughts of like, what is this club? What is this league? Talk about how, this most recent opportunity came together.
Yeah, so I heard about this opportunity December 10th, and
Mm-hmm.
then a month before, I think that's where I signed to my agency. And once I heard about it, I was just really proud because I feel like in women's soccer, you just have to start somewhere and you
Yes.
just have to get there, and then you could just go up through the rankings to
Right.
them. But to start off in like Portugal, I think that's great.
There's
I'm very grateful.
there's less quote unquote cool places to start than Portugal. Portugal is pretty damn cool. We will definitely get into it. So tell us about, so what's the name of your club? I know we tweeted it out from Equal Time, but talk about sort of when you heard about the opportunity and you heard like, okay, well, this is the club name. Did you like Google the
Yeah.
city and like, where am I going? What's going on?
Yes, I started like stalking everything. So I know I still can't say the name right in Portuguese, but it's like Valadares
Uh-huh.
or Valadares or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Gaia FC. They're in Liga BPI.
Okay.
So that's kind of like how I knew, but I kind of focused on like, okay, who was the coach? Who was the
Mm-hmm.
team? How did the team like play? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really like focus much about like the league.
Right. Right. And
So
and so is this like the second tier in Portugal then? You said at least something related to B, or is it the top tier in Portugal?
it's D1.
Nice. That's sweet. That's great. And so you've been over there for long enough now that I'm sure you've sort of been out in the city a little bit. What's the city itself like, and sort of how's the adjustment been? Have you settled in at all?
I've been settling in. I'm not really so much homesick, but Porto, Portugal, that's the city about like a 10-minute train ride. I
Okay.
was just over today having brunch, but it's amazing and it's way better than the pictures.
Yeah. So you're in like a suburb of Porto?
We're kind of like in a beach city. Yeah, so I know about a 20-minute walk that way
Hmm.
is where the beach is.
That's
So
that's
we're kind
sweet.
of like on the coast.
A beach city, you could do a lot worse. So what's the weather like right there? I joke that it's warmer than here, but that's just a guarantee. But what's the weather like? Is it actually warm enough for you to like actually go, or are you waiting maybe
Yeah,
till spring?
it is warm enough to go. So right now we're kind of near the closing of like their winter season.
Mhm.
So I think the coldest it gets here was like 42 degrees,
Right.
but we're about to hit the 60s here this coming week.
Nice. That would be,
So
yeah, if you were home, that'd be like shorts weather.
yeah, my mom was telling me how it's always been like -2, -3, and then I'm like in 55-degree weather. So
Well, and you mentioned you're in a coastal city. I think, you grew up in Minnesota playing at Shattuck, but since then you went to Rutgers out on the East Coast, you went to Gonzaga on the West Coast, now you're in Portugal. Is there some like contract you signed where you can only live in coastal places now? What's the deal?
Well, ever since I was a kid, my mom always told me it's a huge world out there, so go discover like everything. And I think throughout my soccer journey, especially on before I went to Shattuck, I was on ECNL, so we would go over like all over the country
Yeah.
to play soccer. And then now, like going to college from like both coasts, it's like you see the world so differently. And now being out of the United States, this is like my first country I ever been to out
Uh-huh.
of the U.S. So it's just a whole different perspective here compared to the US.
Well,
So
and
I'm grateful to have this experience.
yeah, I mean that's what all the women we have on the shows who do those overseas stints in the pro leagues. I mean, that's a big part of the opportunity is obviously I want to play, I want to grow my career, but also if I get to experience a different culture, that's, that's a really sort of cool part of it as well. And I'm assuming, since you weren't like aiming for Portugal specifically, that you don't have any like background and ability in like Portuguese and that stuff. So for you, are there any other internationals on the team? Like, are there any other, like players that you can converse with super easily, other than,
Yeah.
you trying to bone up on your Portuguese?
Yeah, I live with three other girls who are from America,
Uh-huh.
and then we also have two more girls, one's from Canada, and then we have another girl from America. So like I get to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then I think that's six of the foreigners, and then I think we have one more, but she's from Brazil, but she
Right.
speaks Portuguese. And then some of our teammates, I think everyone's been telling me that like the most second common language here is English. Like
Right.
starting from second grade, they start learning English.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some girls who do speak like very good English.
Uh-huh. Are there,
So
of those other Americans or internationals, did you happen to have like known any of them or know of them, or was it completely random once you got there? You're like, oh, you played here, and I know of that school, or did you know any of them?
yeah, yeah. I didn't know them before coming here, but like the schools they went to like seemed pretty like familiar.
Mm-hmm. Like, are they, so where, like, which colleges were they from?
One's from Syracuse, and then
Mhm.
one went to Maryland.
Yeah. So
So those are like common.
did you ever play against the Maryland one then, when you were in your Big Ten
Um,
years?
my freshman year, uh, we played them. I don't really remember
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah. That was a while ago. That was a while ago.
yeah.
And so, well, and speaking of your freshman year, I think maybe the first time I saw you play in person, or that I remember, was actually at like the first Salvo tryout for their first WPSL team, and I was there on the sideline or something, and everyone kept mentioning like, oh, that's the best player here, that's Alaysia Lane, like that's, oh yeah, watch her, like keep an eye on her. But you've had so many stops since then. I mean, that was forever ago. You were at Rutgers. You had your stint at Gonzaga. You've been balling for Salvo a couple summers in the WPSL. I know we've had some of your highlights on our Twitter feed, but take us all the way back to when you were in your college search, and how did you end up out in New Jersey at Rutgers to begin with?
Oh gosh, I have to go way, way back. That was like junior year of high school.
Mhm.
One thing about the college, when you're searching for colleges, it's just you want to be at the best place you can be.
Mhm.
I, you know, um, oh gosh, you're making me think way back. I don't remember. I think I've been emailing colleges because of ECNL since like middle school. I think that's
Yeah.
how young you start.
Right.
And then I didn't really commit till junior year.
Uh huh.
And I think I was just reaching out to various colleges. I think
Hmm.
that's all I could
Yeah.
remember. And then I would go on tours and then
Yeah.
pick whichever one.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really quite remember.
That's wild. Well, I mean, you do have to start so young. That part is true. Like, it's bonkers how young you all start considering stuff like that. So I guess you must have a really healthy perspective. Just like, forget it, just get it out of there. It's gone. That's great. And
Yeah.
the transfer process has really, I think, opened up slightly since you went through it. I think, the portal, and there's slightly more transferring. I think we are always pretty proactive in trying to like normalize the transfer process. I can't believe more players don't transfer. Like you said, you're choosing these colleges when you're like 15, 16, and then you get there and the
Yeah.
players might not be perfect. So, for you, when you went into that transfer process, did you go in sort of wide open of like, let's just see where I might be able to land? Or did you have certain things in mind that you were looking for? What do you remember about that process?
Um, I was just diving right into it, like, let's see what we have.
Right.
And I think from being here, um, the rest of the girls who I lived with, they also transferred.
Yeah.
So we were all talking about that experience not too long ago and saying, like, oh yeah, like I transferred here, I transferred here. And then I was just like, really? And then I kind of thought about like, oh, like, okay, it's okay to transfer.
Right.
It's okay to go somewhere new and,
Mm.
play soccer somewhere else. Because, when you're like transferring, I think that there's this huge stigma of, like, you're not good enough or, "Oh, you cause all these problems
Right.
on the team," and sometimes that's not the case at all.
Right. Well, and I think especially with the number of players, I've talked to who have been through the process and even ones who didn't transfer, I think people don't really appreciate that a lot of these programs, like across, not just Rutgers, but like any program, when you're talking to the coach and you're getting recruited, a lot of the times, like the expectations you're getting, like based on those conversations, can be different by the time you're in the program too. And so, like,
Yes,
it's
that
like
is 100% true.
from the player perspective, there's actually a lot of places I've heard of where it's like, well, this was the vibe when I was getting recruited, and then by the time I'm on campus, it's this vibe. I mean, like, so it's like there can be times where it's like, dude, I got to get out of here. Like, this is bad.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting, I think one of my teammates told me, I think it's above, like, 65-ish% of girls transfer in
Oh
women's
wow,
soccer in college. I think that's what she said, but
that's
I definitely believe it's over 50%.
yeah, that sounds super high, but I mean, I guess it does make sense just because like and frankly, there are plenty of situations where like no one quote unquote did anything wrong either. Like there are situations where it just like doesn't fit or like there's no spot for you, and it's like, well,
Right.
I want to play, like I want to get minutes. So when you landed at Gonzaga, how did those conversations start, or how did what drew you to eventually choosing Gonzaga?
Oh gosh, you're making me go back again. Like a couple years ago. I think for one, it kind of reminded me of Shattuck. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a small school
Mm-hmm.
where it's a small, like, knit community where, like, big opportunities could happen, and I think I was just drawn to that.
Yeah.
And I think with my experience on Gonzaga, I learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
from being there, I think on the field and off the field,
Mm-hmm.
that I definitely have, like, life lessons that'll definitely, like, carry with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. What are some of the big things you took away from there that you were like, oh, I didn't realize this is how I would grow, or this is what I would realize.
Mhm.
What are some of those specific things you sort of took away?
You can only control the controllables. One thing in college soccer in general that each player can get frustrated with is playing time, and you can't control playing time at all. That's the coach's decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the coach's decision to put out whoever they want on the field,
Right.
regardless of whatever circumstance it is.
Yeah.
And one thing I had to learn is, like, if you truly love this sport, you will give everything you have every single day. And I think with me, ever since I was a kid, I think my parents always instilled me of, like, keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did during college, and then I knew I always want to go, pro.
Mm-hmm.
So I kinda just said, like, "Okay, just keep practicing, keep working hard, keep improving each year no matter what happens in college," and,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy I did that,
Yeah.
and I
That's
kept focusing. Like, there's times where, I mean, I call my mom every day, but I would call my mom, like, crying some days and, like,
yeah.
wondering if I could do it, and then,
Mhm.
you just have to keep loving the game more than anything else, and I
Right.
think that's what kept me going, and, now I'm here,
Yeah.
so
Well, it is funny that you mentioned like the if you knew early on that you always wanted to play pro, I feel like maybe that was also helpful for you then because because I think a lot of players once they're in the pro level, one of the things I hear most frequently is sort of the difference between college and the pro is just that you really have to you are every day is just focused on your game. Like and that can be true in college too, but in college you also have classes, maybe other jobs, all these other
mhm,
things, you're still getting used to like living on your own, whatever. And so
yeah,
by the time you're in the pros, like you just have to every day work on something of your game of like keep growing, build on your progress from the day before over and over and over. And so I think maybe you knowing that so early also helped you be in a good mind space of like, listen, I'm in for the long haul. So for me to get there, I got to keep grinding. It's like if you
yeah,
really you want to be a pro, maybe that helps you have a good mindset sort of as a college player, even when things weren't going, perfectly or whatever.
mhm, definitely. It starts when you're young, like even like middle school or before middle school.
Yeah. That's why it's so funny. I keep asking you questions from like 3 years ago, and you keep going back even farther to middle school.
Yeah.
You really should know.
Well, yeah, from of memories like I know of, like throughout my life, not with like college recruitment or anything.
Well, and I just have to imagine, and maybe you just don't remember because you didn't end up at these places, but you performed well as a young player at Rutgers. I mean, like you did well. You were, freshman of the week and all these things. Like you got accolades and you were performing and getting minutes. So I have to imagine when you were transferring, even with the sort of bullshit stigma that shouldn't be there with transfer players, I have to imagine a lot of programs were probably talking to you. But do you remember, was it crazy? Like, were you hearing from just tons of schools, or were you more sort of you proactively
Um,
reaching out?
I think it was I reached out to a lot, but
Mhm.
um, I had minimal results, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
Yeah. Did you
So,
did you ever did you ever think about trying to come to the U, or was that never a fit?
mm, no. Like I said before, I think my mom said, like, there's tons of other places you can go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to, like, be in Minnesota, you don't have to be home, and I think I was just really attracted to that idea.
Right. Well, in Gonzaga is in like
So
it's cool to just like live in that part of the country and whatever and experience something new.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Pacific Northwest was definitely a different experience compared to being on the East Coast,
Yeah.
especially how the people talk and socialize and, like, how they operate in general is very different. So
Yeah.
you got to see, like, 2 whole different worlds, but having those experiences, like, I can go to, like, Portugal, and then I can be like it can remind you of, like, people that
Right.
you experienced back in the US, and you just know how to maneuver around.
Right. Right. Well, I'm going to take a quick break just to let folks know that this week's episode is brought to you by Pentz Homes. You see them on the scroller down below. They are in the tweet. Pentz Homes is a real estate team with Keller Williams. I personally have experience working with Nate and Lydia. They helped us sell our other house and move into the house I am coming to you from right now. Nate's been a supporter of the local soccer community, including as an owner of Minnesota Aurora. Nate is one of the owners there. My wife and I also enjoyed working with one of their preferred lenders, Angie Shear, with Luminant Financing. Her and her team were fantastic, super responsive. So if viewers or listeners need help with buying or selling a home, need a furnace replaced because we're in the middle of winter, whatever, go to pentzhomes.com or find them on Twitter, reach out and give them a question. And so, Alaysia, one thing I've seen you talk about in interviews before too is sort of your connection with your brother and sort of what he means to you, and
Mhm.
the relationship you two have. Just talk a little bit about that, because I think when I've seen you speak about it before, it was just such a cool thing to hear about.
Yeah, so me and my brother were really close. Oh, you brought back a nice core memory. So fun fact, I do call my brother brother. His real name is Winston Elliott Lane III, but I call him brother ever since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother, he played like 3 sports growing up. I'm the one who started soccer first, and then he like eventually got into soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But his main sport was baseball, and that was like the best sport. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I think whatever my brother did, I did, which was like everything. And then he also like helps me with soccer, especially with 1v1s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's someone I look up to because he never gives up,
Mm-hmm.
and he is also deaf.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's times where like he can also like struggle, but he keeps like working hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a you're a deaf person in a hearing world.
Right.
There's huge stigmas, especially with like sports,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he defies all that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really inspiring to help me like keep going and keep
Mm-hmm.
like pursuing.
Yeah. And I mean, there was an interview, and I think it was, with maybe the when you were at Gonzaga or something, or I saw where you said it's like he's already having to live as a black man in America, and then he's
Right.
also deaf on top of that. And it's like the to deal with like, with like systemic racism at every turn, or just constant, barrier on your life, which you've had to fight against too, I'm sure. But then add, ableism and all those things that go with you know, like you said, it's a like living in a hearing world and being deaf, like all those things. So when you spoke about that, it just really hit me. It's like the respect you have for someone who lives that burden, and you obviously live part of that too. But it's yeah, that was just super meaningful, and I thought that was really, especially your two connections, like you light up just even thinking about them is so cool.
Yeah. Fun fact, like whenever we play 1v1, it's always World War III because we're both super competitive. So, especially if we're playing like FIFA. So,
You well, what's I mean, you're so are you take a lot of pride in your FIFA skills then? Is that what we're hearing?
I used to be really good, but then I went to college, so I'm kind of like okay now, and I'll probably not be so good when I go home. So, but my brother's not on the he's not in video games too because he didn't bring his PlayStation to college, so
Yeah.
so we're both not gonna be at the levels we want to be when we go home,
Listen,
but
you're gonna have to put in the reps when you get back. You'll have to put in the reps.
exactly, yeah.
Well, and I know at least during your college years, another thing I saw you speak about was, that you're a musician, you played multiple instruments like the piano, the viola. So I'm super curious if you work these musical elements into your contract. Like, did you have to get an apartment with the piano in it? Do we have a team supplied viola? Like, what's the situation over there in Portugal?
Oh no, sadly there's no music over here, so I have to wait till I get to my piano back at home.
Yeah. And so is that something where it was a nice outlet, sort of like a way to change gears from, the athletic side and just a hobby? Or did you, specifically, do you try and perform, or is it something more for yourself of like just having that a part of your life?
It's more for myself to have that part of life. I feel like you no matter what job you have, I feel like it's so helpful to have an outlet,
Hmm.
especially if it's like creative. I know like one of my teammates, like she likes to color her feelings.
Yeah.
like day to day or like every like couple days per week. But I
Hmm.
think with like music, I started playing the piano when I was 4 before I started soccer when I was 5.
Hmm.
So, just having like piano, I think piano and the viola and also soccer kind of go hand in hand for me. So, because
Yeah.
when you're like working with the ball, I always listen to music. I'm a music freak and like
Uh-huh.
hearing like the rhythm and then your feet kind of goes along with the rhythm too. And I also did dance for like 4 or 5 years. So I think having all those creative outlets definitely helped me with my sport. Not like it didn't help everything with my sport. You still have to practice every day, but
Yeah.
I think it kind of brings out your creative side.
What kind of dance were you into? What kind of stuff were you? Because 6 years, that's a long time. So you were doing a lot of stuff. What kind of dance were you doing?
We did like ballet, tap, and jazz from what I can remember. And then we would like practice, all year and then we would perform on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. And so what's your jam when you're listening to music and training? Like you said, when you're doing ball work or you're doing individual work, you're always listening to music. What kind of stuff do you have on the playlist?
oh goodness. I'm I can listen to every genre of music but country. I'm not really much of a country person.
Yeah.
So, I'll be playing like Michael Jackson or Stevie Wonder one day, and then another day I can play like Beethoven or Mozart, and then I can go into rap music by like Tupac, Kendrick Lamar.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm very old school with my music, so I'm kind of just all over the place.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Well, then we we have some fun stuff to wrap up with, but before that, I also want to get into, if folks haven't, watched you play or haven't been able to watch you since you were playing in Minnesota or whatever, talk a little bit about sort of the role you have on the team or where you're playing, sort of how does the team you're with play on the field, and then where do you fit within, that system?
So here in Portugal is very interesting. They play very creatively. They play in the air,
Mhm.
and they really love their wingers to be on the inside, not too close to the ninth position or the center forward, but kind of be in, and then
Mhm.
um, kind of kind of float wide and like inside a lot more.
Uh-huh.
So we kind of have like the freedom to do a lot of things out wide, which is nice because being a wide forward, you kind of want that space to like isolate yourself for like 1v1s. And
Yeah.
for me, I'm playing the winger.
Uh-huh.
So the role I play there, from what the coach told me, go 1v1 and produce goals and like assists for the team, really. And
Yeah.
that's what I like to do.
Are
So
you all in like a 4-3-3, or what kind of setup do you all have?
we have a 4-3-3, and one thing I think is very interesting, whenever there's a goal kick for the other team, we like to go into like a 4-2-4. So one of our center mids will go up. So we're
Uh-huh.
kind of like man marking the whole back line, which I
Yeah.
thought was very different compared to soccer back in America. We wouldn't really do that.
So you're like pressing up.
Yeah, we would press up super high.
Yeah. Are you
Or like,
do you like
oh,
playing
I'm
like
sorry.
that? Have you run a press before? Do you like playing like that?
I like that better because everyone is man marking.
Mm-hmm.
Back in college, it'll be three girls chasing one defender at each time.
Yeah.
So you will get this way or less tired.
Uh-huh.
So I like this way better.
Do you and when you're on that wing, do you like playing on the right or left better? Do you like to be able to invert, or like what's the stuff you're looking to sort of what's your go-to vibe up there?
Well, I play with both feet, so it doesn't really matter which side I'm on, as
Mm-hmm.
long as I can use both feet. I really like moving and like making runs deep and behind,
Yeah.
or like I want to have the ball on my feet so I can dribble at players.
Yeah.
So either one.
Is there an easy way if folks wanted to? Are games streamed at all? Is there a way to watch the games? Like I'm sure your parents asked you this
Yes.
question to get
So
you signed.
yeah, so to watch our games, I think only our league games will be streamed. I don't know
Yep.
which game will be streamed, but it's just a league game, but I don't know which game is considered a league game. I know
Yeah.
we have a game tomorrow, but I'm not sure yet if it's streamed or not.
Yeah.
But if it is, you go on YouTube and you type in Canal 11, Canal, and then the number 11,
Yeah.
and then you'll be able to see our games.
That's awesome. I mean, because honestly, that can be one of the tough things too. Leagues don't always have games available. It's not always easy to get good tape, like even for you as a player, of like use this as a launching pad and like get tape for other teams and stuff. So that's really cool.
Mhm.
So Alaysia, I'm sure you watch every episode of Equal Time shows. I'm sure you've seen every single one. So you are very aware of my favorite segment, which is called The Internet Said It. And no
The
one else
internet
has
said it.
no one else has ever told me they like this segment, but it's my favorite, so I continue to do it. This is where I find things that the internet has said about you, and we verify it for our viewers. Don't worry, you have very accomplished, respectable internet of yourself,
Oh.
Alaysia. So the
Well,
first,
that's good because I don't have social media at all, so
I
I
know,
don't know what people would say.
no,
Like,
this is so the first one. We'll just jump right in. The first one is that you are an accomplished journalist, or at least you are an award-winning aspiring journalist. You won the Patricia Fisher Scholar. You were a Patricia Fisher
oh,
Scholar in 2020 out in
yeah, I
Seattle.
was.
And talk about that, because I will say, when you initially started at Rutgers, not that this means anything, I think then you told them you might be a chemistry major. And so
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the change to journalism. I think that's great. So talk a little bit about sort of why you pursued that major, and sort of going for that award, or maybe just your interest in journalism.
Okay, so it's very interesting. I didn't expect myself to be in that position. I always loved chemistry, like during high school, and I thought I was like good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't really declare a major freshman year.
Yeah.
So then when I went over to Gonzaga, I was saying, okay, let me just do a biology major and see how I like that. Then I took an actual like chemistry class
Mm-hmm.
when I was at Gonzaga, and it it was not what I wanted. So
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, like what else do I like to do? And I always love to write, and I
Mm-hmm.
love being like creative and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, like let's just try journalism.
Yeah.
And so then I remember I took this class, History of Journalism, with my professor, Susan English. She's such a great professor.
Mhm.
and she's also my advisor.
Mhm.
Um, it was during February, I think it was during February, during Black History Month,
Mhm.
she talked about the black press and what black journalists did throughout, throughout time. And I became so inspired that I
Mhm.
went home and then I researched all that I can about it. And
Mhm.
then I fell in love. And then that's when I fell in love with journalism. And then my professor, Susan English, she's the one who mentioned this like award
Mhm.
before, saying like, oh, hey, like try it out, like scholarship money, whatever,
Yep.
like try it, go do it. And so then I was like, okay, sure, why not? So then I just wrote, did whatever requirements they wanted. And then I remember it was the summer. I was actually training, I was running in the backyard of where I live. And then I got the email while I was running. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great.
That's so cool. Well, and it's put on by, the I think it's the Seattle Association of Black Journalists, or that group in Seattle. And so
Hmm.
it's so cool to, like you said, to help young folks get into that field too. I kind of have a journalism background, but for you, I guess I will also say, obviously, Alaysia, if you ever want to do any work for Equal Time, the offer is on the table. So just be
Oh,
prepared.
thank you.
So just we would love to have you. You would immediately give us, I think, 10 times the credibility we have now. So if you're ever game, you let me know.
Oh.
You
Yeah,
let,
also, I'm also doing a master's online, American journalism online at NYU, so I start in the fall.
oh my gosh,
So
that's
I got
incredible.
into that program. Yeah, so I'm really
That's
excited
really
to start. So it'll probably help me solidify with what I actually want to do with journalism.
yeah. That
So,
is
'cause I don't know yet.
that is wild. NYU is, I think, a really really respected program for that, right? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful I got in.
That's great. That's great. And so I'm also going to include this next bit in the internet set it because technically the internet was involved with me researching it, and no one cares about how I define this segment. So we're just going to consider it the same thing. Alasia,
Okay.
we have 5 of the questions you were asked, and given how the start of this interview went, I think this will actually end up being very entertaining because you do not seem to remember a lot of things in your life. You were I
Well,
I have
yeah, not the college years. I
I have
blocked that
five
out.
and I have five. So I have 5 of the questions that you were asked right when you started your Rutgers career. And I'm going to ask
Oh.
you those same questions and then we will see if they match up. So I
Okay.
picked 5 of those questions. So the first one would be, what 3 things would you bring to a deserted island?
Oh gosh. My phone? Well, yeah, my phone. Gosh, it won't work, but yeah, my phone. Definitely a soccer ball. I'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely get a soccer ball.
Mm-hmm.
It can keep me entertained for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh gosh. I think another one, my mom, because she's very smart and she'll keep me company and keep me comforted during like the struggle. Like, so she's probably the only person that could keep me calm. So I
Yeah.
would say my mom.
That's First of all, this is adorable because you did say your mom the first time too. This is like you're getting so many points with your mom with this show right now.
Yeah.
You're so your first you and by the way, you almost matched what you said when you were a freshman.
Oh, really? What did I say?
You said your mom, a soccer ball, and a hammock. So you traded in
Oh,
your
a
hammock,
hammock.
but you know what, Alasia, you could make a hammock. You don't need to bring
That's true.
your phone. Your phone is a good call. That's a good. So you made a good upgrade. So the next question is, what is your favorite TV show, music, and food? That's a big question, but you basically
Oh,
listed.
it's gonna be the same. I already know this. Okay, so Michael Jackson's my favorite, and
Uh
then
huh.
food is pizza, and then favorite TV show, Family Matters.
I You nailed it, and I was
Yeah,
when
that
I saw.
hasn't changed.
I love that you are repping Family Matters, man. I there might be
Yes.
You might be the only like 23-year-old who's repping Family Matters.
No, it like when I was a kid, my mom showed me Family Matters, Smart Guy, Sister Sister, Fresh
Yes.
Prince of Bel-Air, all those shows back in the 90s.
I
A
mean,
Different World,
I
Different
mean, these
Strokes.
are
That's way back.
I mean, these are staple shows. These are monster hits. So they do live on
Mhm.
for sure.
Yes, I will always rep them.
I do any of your teammates, if you just randomly went and talked to a teammate, would any of them know about Family Matters?
I doubt it.
You're gonna you're gonna introduce it to them. That's what you can do.
Oh gosh, I mean, I don't know, I think their Family Matters is on Hulu, and I don't think I get Hulu over here.
Right.
So,
Right.
I'll probably have to wait till I'm back in the States.
It's gonna be a challenge. So next one is, if you had a walkout song, what would it be?
Oh, um, I have 2. It's either Bad by Michael Jackson or Survivor by Destiny's Child.
Oh my, you nailed it again. Those were your answers then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you are
Yeah, I
great.
don't think I changed much since college.
You are consistent. You are consistent. This one is especially great considering what you mentioned. You are not a very online or a social media focused person, but what social media platform is your favorite?
Oh, um, I think back then, I think I would have said Snapchat,
Yep, you did.
but, I don't really have anything else, so
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna stick with Snapchat because I
Are
use
you
to talk to my friends.
are you still living that Snapchat life now?
Yeah, I still d yeah, I use it to talk to my friends since I don't have,
Right.
Instagram or anything.
Nice. Nice. And the last question was, are there any fun facts about you? So this is kind of hard for you to duplicate, but what do
Oh,
you think you would have said, or what would you say now if I said any fun facts?
um, I I would always say, like, I play 2 instruments, I used to dance.
Uh-huh.
I really love the arts, so I really love going to plays, and
Yep.
my favorite play would be The Lion King.
That was your answer.
Oh, really?
You are Alaysia, you are an incredibly consistent person.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is great. We can, and Alaysia, we will not take any more of your time. I think viewers can tell how committed you are. We have taken you from daylight to sundown. You've been committed this whole time.
Yeah.
As Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck in Portugal. How long are you over there? How long is your stint?
Until later in June,
Okay.
I wanna say. So,
Nice.
couple months from now.
That's when Minnesota maybe gets to have you back. That's when Minnesotans can maybe expect you back on the home ground.
Yeah, plus it'll be warm, so
That's true, and you'll be able to just tell everyone about the beaches of Portugal. You'll be big dogging everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been taking thousands of pictures, so I can't wait to show my family and everything.
I love it. Well, Alaysia, thank you so much. Alaysia Lane, playing over in Portugal in, as she describes it, a beautiful beach town, just living the dream.
Mhm.
And thanks so much for joining us, Alaysia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.